police seem to be unable to get on top of the high crime rates. And then there is the issue of politics, with the high turnover of national police commissioners being a case in point. What needs to happen to get the police service in order? Let's discuss this with security analyst Ziyanda Stuurman. Thank you so much for your time, Ziyanda. We do appreciate it. I think let's just first reflect on the newly appointed police commissioner. Many would say that this is the right direction in trying to get the right person to head up the police. What is your sentiments around the newly appointed police commissioner?
Yeah. Good evening, Heidi. And I think I would largely agree with you that we're in a much better place, at least at this point, and on the face of it, with the appointment of Lieutenant General Fani Masemola now as National Police Commissioner. This is an individual who has a long history within the police. As the president read out his resume and his experience, it's shown us that he's been involved in multiple police operations and in multiple parts of police leadership since at least 1994. So in this sense, we have somebody who's, on the face of it again, at least really good at the operational and technical aspects of policing and leading those. And that's certainly something that we need at this point.
Maybe just speak to us about some of the challenges that the police commissioner could possibly be facing, because we do know that there seem to be some kind of, I don't know if I can call them personality clashes between the previous police commissioner and the current police minister, Begekele. Do you think that that would also be some kind of challenge, or do you think the style of the new police commissioner is just to get the work done and focus on operational matters and stay out of politics?
Yeah, look, those are all really good questions, and I think that they're layered and should be thought of in different ways, right? So firstly, at least from media reports, we've seen that Begekele was, or Police Minister Begekele was involved in the panel that interviewed Lieutenant General Masemola for this position, and therefore, made the recommendation for appointment to the president. One would hope that would lead to sort of understanding, at least between the police commissioner and this particular police minister, in terms of a working relationship. I do agree, though, that Lieutenant General Masemola has a lot of knives. I think that he's going to have to juggle, really. And those include, factional battles within the ANC, within which Kehla Sithole allowed himself to be, embroiled and really distracted from the day-to-day running of the police as well as its operations. And at the very same time, very ugly and demoralizing, really, feuds between the police minister and the national police commissioner that went on for quite a few years and really kind of peaked during the July unrest. So if Lieutenant General Masemola, in his new role as National Police Commissioner, can avoid all of that and really stay focused on the job itself and not sort of see the position as a platform for politics or really allowing himself to get distracted by anything other than the job, then I think he could put himself in a good place to really lead the police over the next few years.
Well, we would hope that he doesn't get distracted, Ziyanda, because at the end of the day, the people on the ground suffer, and the people on the ground are the ones that don't have trust and confidence in our police force. And that seems to be growing and growing almost every single day. I want us to shift focus on the state of our policing in this country. And this has been a conversation for many years to say that, are the police doing the right thing? Are they fighting crime as they should? And that seems to be a huge challenge, be it for the new police commissioner or the minister of police. It just doesn't seem to be being addressed. And while they say they're doing all they can, citizens who fall victim to crime every single day don't necessarily feel that way.
Yeah, and I think that is a really good and nuanced point to make, particularly around the trust, in the police by the public. It also certainly has an effect on the function of the police within the SAPS, and multiple other writers such as Karen Dolly and others have spoken about what corruption even within the police means and how it erodes trust between police officers and really leads to sort of diminished function in the way that the police do their jobs. I think it's also really important, to highlight the fact that, public trust could be restored in the police if, again, every police officer, and I'll go back to using the example of the National Police Commissioner, but if every police officer focused on their job and focused on doing it well, that also then means, by extension, that those in the SAPS leadership, and particularly the sort of operational body of the SAPS, would do the same, and really therefore allow officers to keep focused on dealing with crime and preventing crime, not just even necessarily punishing crime. And I think importantly, it helps to ask those questions about our own society and saying that, and answering them by saying that we can't police our way out of the issues that we have around xenophobia or unemployment or inequality, and that actually our police are also a mirror to ourselves as society. So if we're asking the police to change, at the same time, we really need to, as citizens, have a really clear idea of what it is we want from a police force with high discipline, high morale, and that functions in both a country and economy, that helps to keep people out of crime.
Certainly, and you make a very good point to say it's not only the police that we should be looking to, but also as communities and society, also trying to bring about the necessary change and make our spaces a safer place. I want us to move over to the lack of resources, and we've heard this time and time again. If I'm not mistaken, I actually spoke to you when the State of the Nation address was delivered, and there just doesn't seem to be enough resources and boots on the ground to deal with what police have to deal with on a daily basis. And there was an interesting article to say that the police are actually expecting a massive migration of people to parts of Gauteng and the Western Cape. And this is going to mean an even bigger challenge and task for our police force, isn't it?
Correct. And this really goes back to, the discussion we had with the previous question. We've seen, unfortunately, in a lot of rural areas and smaller towns, that the economies in those places, because of, a multitude of factors, including poor service delivery or, aging infrastructure, really has meant that those areas can no longer sustain people and their livelihoods. And I think that's why you're seeing, and as you mentioned, the police predict there to be a major migration from those areas into our largest cities. I think that also really brings back to the point that, once that happens, we can't expect the police themselves to be the, one and only really sort of gatekeeper between or sort of provider of community safety. I think it's incumbent on communities themselves, to firstly stand up against corruption and report criminals themselves or police officers who are corrupt and aiding them. And at the very same time, to focus on tasks of economic growth and holding political leaders accountable where they're not doing their job or they're doing their work well, including ward councillors and other political actors. So really, it's as much as we're talking about resourcing within the police and the fact that the police need, better resourcing, but also I think a much more careful and targeted allocation of those resources across communities. Again, is I think really space for communities to play a role in safety as well.
And, you touch on a point about resources and how we need more resources and more boots on the ground. But a lot would also say that perhaps our police force need better training in dealing with the issues that they have to deal with and face on a daily basis. One particular matter that has stuck with me and will probably stick with me for the rest of my life is the Nathaniel Julius matter, where you have a mother that's sitting in court every single day, crying her eyes out because she cannot believe what was done to her son. And the details, yes, are still sketchy and it is still in court. But that community in Eldorado Park here in Gauteng has lost complete confidence and trust in the police. It's also the way police handle certain matters, whether it be murder or rape or even if it's a petty crime. To the victim, it's massive. So I'm sure training is also a massive issue that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and it really leads into another part of the discussion. Given that police officers, have about 24 months of training as well as assessment, I think that there is a high level of training that's offered to police officers, but there is something to be said about the institutional culture within individual police stations around the country. When a new police recruit or a warrant officer really at entry level steps into a police station, there is also the culture that's built by the station commander, by older police officers, and those who are much more experienced than them. That, I think, can sometimes run counter to training. Whereas, where you're taught at a training academy that this is how this is the steps that you take in doing your job. At an individual police station, like a station commander could say, that's not how we do this. And I think that you see the really sharp edge of that awful type of institutional culture play out in cases such as Nathaniel Julie's. I think it's also important to note that IPID, or the Independent Policing and Investigative Directorate, which is meant to be the watchdog over the SAPS, did really good work in the Nathaniel Julie's case to uncover what really happened. But they're also very under-resourced and cash-strapped, which means that even where bad police training or bad police culture has taken a hold, they're not actually able to hold those police officers accountable, which is, again, how you get this sort of vicious cycle of police officers who act the way that the officers in the Nathaniel Julie's case did.
Certainly, and I think a point to also just make is that as a victim, there must be respect for law and order and the way things are done. But also as a police officer, there needs to be respect and sensitivity, because as a victim, in somebody else's world, it might not be as serious, but a victim finds, even if it's a petty crime, your whole world is almost coming to an end. I want us to shift back to the political landscape in this country and how many are saying there's no political will and emphasis on getting policing right in this country. And we kind of saw that play out during the July unrest, to say, where were government officials, where were the ministers that needed to actually make sure that there is law and order in this country? And there are so many fears that that could happen again, because if it was so easily done in July, what does that mean for those in future who do want to cause havoc and go against law and order in this country?
Yeah. I would absolutely say that it's, what happened in the July unrest was, of course, incredibly concerning, and really, I think, shone a light on just how much of our security apparatus had been eroded, through the state capture period and even before that. And I think really what I would say to that is that there is, more public scrutiny on the fact that there's, fractures really within the police service, with people seeing themselves as loyal to, one party or one individual within police leadership. And not necessarily to others. So I'm quite, I think, heartened by the fact that there's public scrutiny. I think it's a good thing that we, necessarily have a new police commissioner, given the many sort of issues tied in with Ketla Sithole. But I think we should really remember that even just changing the top leadership of the police is not necessarily going to, in one fell swoop, improve the police service. I think that there needs to be a much larger plan, and this is precisely where President Cyril Ramaphosa comes in, as well as his realignment or new alignment of state security fits in as well. But they need to really present us with a plan going forward for how the SAPS, state security, the military and other functionaries of public safety will work. I don't think it's good enough, to just change the appointment of one person or one leader within the police. I think there's a lot happening internally within the police that needs to really be looked at, scrutinized, and where necessary, it needs to be changed.
Certainly, and I think many are calling on the Minister of Police, Bheki Cele, to also be the leader in all of this, because our policing really is not in the greatest state. But thank you so much. That was security analyst Ziyanda Stuurman weighing in on the bad state of policing. Thank you so much for always making time to speak to us.